positive affirmations are kind of my thing. I like to have positive words of affirmation. I think we can all use them tonight. Um, so, energy and persistence conquer all things, and opportunities don't just happen, you create them. So, I think those are good words of affirmation for all of us this evening. So again, welcome everyone. We are so happy to have you all joining us this evening. Um, I would like to start off by giving some introductions. I'm Donna Walker. I'm a practice development coach and senior practice consultant with the startup with Clarity. And I'm joined by my colleague, Lori Ritchie, who is also a senior practice development coach with Clarity. Together, we are so excited to have Lindsey Shaw joining us this evening. She also has her co-worker with her this evening, joining us this evening. Um, I'm so excited. Lindsey is one of my very favorite people. Truly, she is. She has almost 20 years in the healthcare administration. Many of you may know her from her time with us here at Clarity. Now she is a VP of Medical Aesthetics at Lifted Logic. And tonight she is going to talk to us about our leads, and are they bad leads or bad processes? So without further ado, I would like to have Lindsey Shaw take it over. Lindsey.
Thank you, Donna. I'm so excited to be back with Donna and Lori and have Megan join me. Megan is our VP of Business Development, and she's going to chime in and help me with this presentation and the chat and the questions this evening. So absolutely jump in, ask any questions along the way, because our topic is one that I know from my time as a consultant and certainly what I'm doing now at Lifted Logic. We hear these problems a lot. My leads are terrible. My leads are bad. I'm not getting enough leads. But when we start really digging in, is it a problem with the leads themselves, or is it a problem with our processes? So tonight we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about those things. We're going to first talk about how you identify what your rate limiter is in your practice. What is truly inhibiting your growth? We're going to talk about lead callback best practices. We're going to talk about how you use tools to make you more efficient and boost your productivity. We're definitely going to talk about conversions. We're going to talk about how we can re-engage those people who reach out to us and say no to us the first time. And then I'm going to leave you with an action plan, things that you can walk away with, questions you can go back to your practice and ask yourself and start working on figuring out, is it really a problem with my leads or is it a problem with my processes? So the first thing we're going to talk about is, what is your rate limiter? And a rate limiter is really the single biggest factor that's slowing down your growth in your practice. So this is something that we analyze really early on when we start talking to people at Lifted Logic, and we're talking about, oftentimes I'm not getting enough leads or my leads are bad. And we say, okay, let's really think about what it looks like when a patient moves through your practice. Well, I'm actually going to start that process at the end of the funnel, and we're going to talk about it backwards because that actually makes a lot of sense when we put it into perspective. If the lifetime value in the aesthetic industry of one patient is around $5,000, it's important to know that if we take a step back, how did we get that one patient for a lifetime? Well, on average in the industry, it took 2 consultations to get one person to say yes. That means each of those consultations is worth $2,500. If we take one more step back in that process, it likely took about 4 phone calls to get 2 people to say yes to a consultation, to get one person to say yes to that treatment plan that you were developing for them. That means each of those phone calls is very important. They're worth about $1,250 each time you get someone on that phone. So what you're doing and what you're saying is vitally important. If we take one more step back, how did we get 4 people on the phone? Well, it takes leads coming in. Now, let's say that we had 60 leads come in. If we got 60 leads that came in and we got 4 phone calls out of that, are the leads our problem? Let's take one more step back from the leads. Where do they come from? They come from the users that visit our website. On average, we get about 6% of people that visit our website reaching out in this industry. So if we had 1,000 users coming and we got 60 people to reach out to us, but we only got 4 people on the phone and 2 people to say yes to a consult and 1 patient, is it really a problem with getting the leads? Is it a problem with the phone calls? Maybe it's a problem with what happens in the middle, in the process that we have. When we think about where we find our rate limiter and then how we fix it, this is a really easy exercise. There's no trick, no math here. But if we're making pens and we've got one machine that makes the ink and it can make 26 ink cartridges in an hour, we've got another machine that makes the caps. It can make 13 in an hour. And we've got another machine that makes the tube that holds it all together, and it can do 26 in an hour. How many pens can we actually make? It's not a trick question. I'll let Megan answer because she can hear me.
13?
It's 13, right? Now, when somebody says, hey, we need to make more pens, that's what we need to be doing. A lot of times what we see happen is that everybody says, let's open another location. Let's bring another provider in. Let's add more services. But when we're doing things like adding a whole new location, yes, we might be doubling the production, but we're also doubling all of the expenses. And we're doubling all of the problems that we're having along the way. And now if we double, where are we? We're still only making 26 pens and we still have a lot of excess. Then we still have that same rate limiter. But what if we realize our rate limiter is the cap machine? What if we just add another cap machine? What if we add 2 more cap machines? Then we could do 39 pens in an hour. We don't even have to produce all this excess. We can cut that back. Maybe we can do something with those efficiencies. We need to figure out where that rate limiter truly is. Think about the processes around it and think about how we can optimize that process to make things better. And when we talk about making things better, we're not just talking about more efficiency, we're talking about more conversions, more patients coming through our practice, and more revenue. So where's the real problem? Is the real problem that all the leads are actually bad? It's the common complaint. But the truth is often what is happening in reality is leads go cold because we have poor follow-up processes, because we let people fall through the cracks, because we're keeping all of our reminders on Post-its all over our desk, whatever it is. And it's not malicious. It's not saying our team is bad. It's not saying you're bad at this. It's saying that things happen. And if we're not paying attention to our processes, to our people, what's going on, we're going to miss those opportunities to turn over those quality leads, those people who really want these services done, and they're going to go to the next person on the list. So we want to make sure that we're thinking about where these problems could lie. Is it our response time? Is it the follow-up frequency? Do we have a lack of structure? This happens a lot, I think, that we deal with, that there's this misconception, I think, that when we hire somebody to work our leads coming in or work at a front desk or do customer service, that they automatically know what to say and what to do and how this should work. But it isn't that way for everyone. So having scripts, having structure is really important. You need to examine that. Oftentimes, we do have some sort of CRM tool or software that we're using, but we're underutilizing it. We're not doing all the things that it's capable of. We're not putting all of our leads in it. We don't have all of our team members using it. We're just underutilizing it in a lot of ways. And so it's very fragmented and it's not doing for us what it could be. And finally, we often don't have anything in place for staff accountability. We often aren't looking at the metrics that tell us how we truly are performing. So, how do we know if our system is broken? When we're looking at these things that it might be, what are going to be some of the things that we notice happening that tip us off that there's definitely a problem in our process? Well, one is going to be that speed. Do we have a lag from the time that someone sends us an inquiry until the time that we get back to them? This is really, really important. We have 15 minutes to get back to them to optimize getting them to say yes and come into our practice. Every minute that goes beyond that, we're losing more and more opportunity to get them in. We often are missing out on that structure. So we need to make sure that we are calling everyone. Our leads should be getting a call, but they should also be getting an email and they should also be getting a text. And if we don't hear back from them, we should be doing that again in 24 to 48 hours. And if we don't hear from them again, we should be going back and doing it again. But often what's happening is we make one phone call or we email back one time and then it just falls through the cracks. And we say, oh, bad lead. Well, if everybody that's a bad lead because they didn't pick up one phone call that came through, I'll tell you right now, I'm the worst lead. I'm terrible because I'm never picking up that phone. And it takes me till they've bothered me 2 or 3 times to say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. My life is crazy. And I do want to come in for that appointment. So calling a lead one time or emailing one time is not going to be enough. It's important to put that structure in place. Tracking. We often are not tracking anything. We know that this is a problem across our industry, sometimes because we don't know what we don't know, sometimes because our systems are broken or we're working out of multiple different tools. We're not really sure where to get the data, how to get the data. If you're working with Clarity, if you're working with Lifted Logic, if you're working with a consultant anywhere, if you're doing these things, ask the questions. Find out what you need to be doing. There are people out there that help with these things. It's important to make sure that you're tracking the follow-up, tracking your conversion metrics. That throughput I showed you, how many users are you getting? How many leads are coming in? How many phone calls is your team getting on? How many people actually book that consult and how many people become a patient with you? Every one of you should be able to fill out those numbers and know what's happening in your practice. And finally, follow up. If we are having people miss consultations, we're not following up after people say, oh, I need to think about that. If we've got all these leads coming in and they're just falling through the cracks and nobody's calling them back, follow up is a big problem then for you. And it needs to get outlined. If any of these things are ringing a bell in your practice and you're thinking, that sounds like my lead management person. That sounds like me. Some of you might be your own lead management person. And so these are some signs to say, I need to dig into this. I need to get a solid process put in place. The number one fix for this is going to be having a lead callback strategy. Speed plus structure is going to equal success for you. And so, number one, I mentioned it already. I'll say it again. I'll probably say it a couple more times before we're done tonight. Respond within 15 minutes if possible. We need to get back to those. We call them at Lifted Logic, those are your hot leads. Those are people that are ready right now. We've got to get in touch with them. We also want to make sure that our callback strategy that we're outlining for our team has multiple contact attempts over several days. Here in a few minutes, I'm going to show you kind of an outline of best practices that we personally use in our business and share with all of our clients. We want to also make sure that we're providing some scripts to help with that workflow. Maybe just for the first call, if it gets, depending on what your workflows look like, I personally like to have some templates for a lot of different scenarios to make it easier and more efficient to drop in a text, to drop in an email, to know what to say on the phone. Especially if you have new employees or you are a newer business, scripting is really, really important. It builds confidence. It helps them work on understanding how to navigate a conversation in a way that's going to build rapport with that client and is going to get them into your practice. And that's the goal. That is the absolute number one goal that anyone working lead management should have is I'm getting back to them and I'm getting them on the schedule. We don't have to worry about selling something to them on the phone. They're going to talk to a provider when they come in for that consultation. We need to focus on getting them on the schedule. And so finally, we need to make sure that we're setting specific callback KPIs. We need to understand what the expectations are. Our team members need to understand what we're looking at. What is the expectation? Megan talks all the time about our lead callback specialist, Charlene. She's absolutely phenomenal. We only have one. She manages about 150 leads a week by herself. And she does that because we have a structure. She can do that because she has scripting. She does multiple contact attempts over several days, and she knows exactly what Megan is expecting from her. She knows that it's expected that 60% of the leads that come in are getting on my schedule, Megan's schedule, or our owner Adam's schedule. That's what she's working for. She's got very clear expectations. We know what the goal is. So it's really important to make sure that you have a process. I know tonight we're going to talk a little bit about CRMs and the tools, but what is behind a CRM? It's just a tool. Megan says all the time, it's just a wrapper. It's just a wrapper for the process we put together. So definitely make sure you're putting together a process in your practice. This is just a snippet of ours. It's just the top piece. It's actually, I think, oh gosh, very long. It's very big. But we make sure we outline. We're going to call. We're going to text. We're going to email. Here's a script that can help you get through those. Quick templates. That's what we're doing right away. Then if we don't hear anything, second set of follow-ups. Third set of follow-ups come on day 6 or day 7. Again, phone call with a voicemail, text message, and email. If we still don't hear anything, we try a final set of touch points somewhere around day 13 or 14. We try all 3 of those attempts, and we let them know, hey, we're not here to bother you. We know people get busy. We're going to take you off our list for right now, but if you need us, give us a call. When you have a process outlined like this is going to make a huge difference in making sure that you are getting back to all of your leads. That if you have more than one person handling this, you want some consistency in how things are how they're being done, how we're handling it, what we're saying. And so outline a process. The number 2 fix for these process problems that we often are having with our lead management workflow is that we're not using a tool or that we're not using it appropriately. So having a CRM tool and making sure it's optimized is really beneficial. We have a CRM tool. Lots of companies have a CRM tool. If you have a website, chances are they have some sort of CRM tool, but chances are you're not using it well. You haven't outlined the process like we just talked about, and you're not using the technology to help you with it. Megan, I think you said the other day, right? You have a practice that was surprised because they thought, I'm just going to plug it in and it's just going to know what to do, right?
A little training involved.
A little bit of training, right? And they're just like, what? But like, doesn't it learn? Doesn't it know? Listen, there's a lot of really great AI things out there, but you guys, it takes knowing what your workflow looks like, what some best practices are to make sure. And then guess what? It still takes people to make those phone calls, to send those messages. And so we want to make sure that we're using the tool appropriately. This is just kind of a snippet of our workflow dashboard that we have that is always out there telling people, what's your follow-up? What do you need? Click on this number 21. It's going to pop up a list of people that are due for that second touch point today. You can click into each one of them and make sure you're calling, emailing, and texting. And then it's going to move them to the next place in the system. Setting tasks and reminders, setting those auto reply texts for when you are outside of business hours. These are important things to do. We talked to a practice today that said, do people really expect you to get back to them in 15 minutes if it's the middle of the night on a Saturday? And I said, definitely there's an expectation that you have closed hours. But this is where we do get to use some automation to say, we have after hours an automated response that acknowledges that Donna sent a request in for an appointment when she couldn't sleep and was browsing at 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning. And it said, hey, thanks for your inquiry. It's the weekend. We're going to be back in first thing on Monday morning, and we're going to give you a call to get you set up. In the meantime, here's some resources. Here's some places you can go. So we want to make sure that we're using these things appropriately. And we want to make sure that we're using our CRMs to also run reports and see what's truly happening. Check that accountability. Get in there. What are these texts saying? What are the emails saying? Does your CRM record phone calls? It's one of the great things that I love about ours is when we have clients reaching out and they're saying, hey, these leads are bad, and we start checking in, we say, okay, let's take a look. What's getting said? What are these leads saying? What kind of questions are they asking? How can we work on this? And what we realize is the phone call we're listening to is absolutely awful. The text that we see them responding with is definitely not nurturing that lead in the way that we probably want them to. So we want to make sure that we're creating processes where we are holding our team accountable, holding ourselves accountable to going back in here and seeing truly what's happening. Whether you're choosing a CRM or you're choosing just to start manually tracking with a spreadsheet, which is okay to get you started, absolutely. Whatever it is you're choosing, please make sure that you are tracking this and that what you're tracking matches up to what your patient journey, what your workflow looks like. So you make sure that you're not trying to manage something that's not happening, that's not something that you do in your practice. You've got to make sure that that step that we just talked about of outlining, when do you call back? What are you saying? When are you emailing? When are you texting? Setting those clear expectations, making sure our team is all on the same page. When we think about that CRM optimization, it's really great to map out the pipeline for where you're moving your clients along. Where do you want to see them? How many people have consults scheduled? How many people no-showed? How many consultations completed without a treatment? How many post-consultation follow-ups do I have for today? We want to move people through the process so we can easily click this open. Jackie had a consultation but didn't do a treatment. I'm going to give her a call today. I'm going to see if she had any questions. Hey, Jackie, I know consultations are really overwhelming. We share a ton of information. I'm just reaching out to see if there's any additional questions I can answer for you. We don't have to be salesy. We don't have to be pushy. That is not what this is about. This is about being helpful, building relationships, and making sure you're doing your part to contact someone who reached out to you. Some best practices in making sure to use your CRM and boost performance in your practice. Again, those visual pipelines, like I just showed, are really, really great. A lot of people are visual people. So having just lists and names and numbers everywhere doesn't always resonate with everyone. So having visual pipelines can be really, really helpful and can have very clear indication of where that lead is in your process. Shared visibility across your team is really important for your team to work together, to back each other up when somebody's on their lunch break, who's answering the phones, when somebody's on vacation. Lindsay called in sick today, so Megan's going to be covering the phones. We need to make sure everybody is in that system, has visibility to what's been going on, what the communication looks like, so they can step right in seamlessly and pick up the next steps. It also is going to create ownership across the team when they are involved with that. They feel like part of the process. Anybody who's worked with me before has heard me say one of my biggest pet peeves is somebody saying, "That's not my job." This is one of those times that stepping in and managing leads, especially in a small practice, often is everyone's job. So having shared visibility to what the process is, how we're managing it, and making sure everyone can see what's going on with these leads is really important. Templates, I know we already mentioned it, I'll say it again, helps with just consistent messaging, helps get faster lead follow-up going because they're not typing out 10-line paragraphs every time that they are responding with the same message or close to the same message. Get some templates that can be customized very quickly. It can really make a huge difference. And then metrics. Make sure you're measuring the improvement that your team is making. I'm really big on making sure that we set goals and that then we celebrate our achievements. But we're never done. There's always room for improvement. So continue measuring, continue talking to your team, continue setting those goals for them. This one is really Megan's wheelhouse. I'm going to tell you, this is her phrase, not mine. I can't take credit for it, but she will tell you one of the biggest things that you can do in fixing your processes with lead management is chasing the no. A no today doesn't mean a no forever. So all along the way, when we were looking at each of those steps, from user to lead, lead to telephone call, we're losing people that are basically telling us no. They're not picking up the phone. They're not responding to our email. We maybe get them on the phone, but they don't book a consultation. They're telling us no, not right now. They come in for the consultation, but they don't go forward with the treatment. They're telling us no, not right now. When we go back, every single one of those no's along that throughput model that I showed earlier is someone that's in your database now. You have paid already for that marketing to gather that lead, to get them in. You've got their contact information. Now go back and chase after all of those no's rather than thinking every time I do anything, I've got to pay more marketing money. I've got to get new leads in. I got news for you. Whether it's a brand new lead or it's a lead that's coming back from your database somehow, every time someone's on your schedule, that's a new opportunity for you. And so when you start thinking about it that way, you can really start changing the way that you manage leads, changing the way that you re-engage your database, that you get people back into your practice, and that you can start growing your revenue by chasing those no's. One of the first things you can do is record what people are telling you about the objections. Why are they saying no? Do you find some common themes? What is it? Is it something we can fix? Is it something we can do? Maybe, maybe not. But if we know why they're saying no to us, it's definitely something that we can try to tackle. Which brings us to number two, objections and questioning. Make sure your team is trained to overcome questions and objections and answer them well, not just accept them as a rejection and move on and never think about it again. We want to make sure that we're thinking through those objections, thinking about the appropriate way we can answer them, and work on turning those no's into yeses. We want to make sure that we have a plan in place for how we're chasing those no's. So we want to create some re-engagement workflows. That means, what is our strategy for re-engagement? Are we going to go back to that database and run a report of everyone who is due for Botox this month that doesn't have an appointment? Hey, they said no to us at some point about getting that next appointment scheduled. Let's go after them. They're due for Botox and they're likely getting it somewhere. So let's reach out to them. What about people who just haven't been in for anything in 6 months? Let's work on re-engaging them. What about our people who were in for a consultation, didn't make a purchase? We should be re-engaging with them. But we need some strategies, and your team needs that structure. If you think that your lead management team, your front desk person, is going to just jump in and they're going to do it all on their own and they're going to come up with all of this stuff, quite honestly, that's just not the reality. So, as managers, as owners, as leaders in our team, we need to work on this together as a team and say, this is what we should do. I want your input. Let's work on this process together. And then building those follow-up processes, making sure that we are continuing to build processes, practice them. Your team will become very resilient to hearing no. And that's an important thing. Megan, I think you always say we hear a lot more no's than we hear yes, right? And so build that resilience with them. Help them understand that over time, persistence is going to pay off. And it doesn't have to be pushy. It doesn't have to be salesy, but persistently being in their inbox with a newsletter, sharing education with them, giving them a phone call that says, hey, Lori, I noticed that you're due for Botox and that you don't have an appointment. Our schedule's filling up really quickly. I wanted to make sure you didn't get behind on your treatments. Would you like to go ahead and schedule? That's not being salesy, that's being helpful to your patients. And you're going to create a lot of retention with your existing database if you start chasing the no's in the process.
Hey, Lindsay, on that note, Charlene told me just today, she was like, for every 10 no's I get one yes a month from now. She's like, so instead of counting the no's, I count the future yeses. And I know that if I talk to 100 people in a week, that you're going to have 10 meetings on your calendar in 1 month. And I thought that was really interesting and unique that
Yes.
there's a cadence to those no's.
Absolutely. And you know why she knows that? Because she's looking at the numbers, she's looking at the metrics, because she's tracking these things. But I love that too, right? That's that resilience piece where she's like, I hear the no's, I don't let it get to me because I know that I'm going to get a yes in the future, right? And so I love that. Megan, do you want to share, since you're talking about Charlene a little bit, do you want to share a little bit about that lead process, how you guys built that with Charlene and kind of why we did that?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I would add there, and I saw a question in the chat about how do you know if your CRM is working hard enough for you or when it's time to
Mhm.
reevaluate. And that's really the piece that I would be looking at. If it's not helping you hold the team accountable, if it's not helping give you the transparency to see where those no's are happening and how we can recoup them, and if
Mhm.
it's not recirculating those no's until they become a yes, Usually it's not the CRM or the tool itself. To Lindsay's point, it's the way that we're utilizing it. And so really, Charlene was the one on our team that said, I mean, first of all, she has 7 degrees. She's one of the smartest people that I know. Her only job in our company is to field the inbound leads and to convert them into appointments. And we've approached her several times about leaving that position to do something else in the company. And her response is, no, because I know that I control the volume of sales for the company. I'm not going anywhere. And so she really helped us kind of develop our methodologies to do all of the things that Lindsay just said. It's how do we manufacture every no back into a yes to grow the company without having to grow our new lead intake.
And it is possible. I actually just had this conversation earlier today, thinking about quality leads and all those leads that start coming in. Look, not every lead is going to be the perfect lead, but if we have good processes, if we get these things in place, we can actually reduce our lead volume and do a better job of converting what's coming in and building that up, then turning that into revenue. And so, when we are constantly thinking that the metric we're looking for is the number of users on our website or the number of leads that are coming in, we're really looking at that the wrong way, because really what we need to look at is how much of that are we converting? How can we improve that conversion? And you guys, that comes back to the process. What are we doing? I have here an action plan for you to take these insights, and we're going to have plenty of time for questions as well, but take this back to your practice. How are you going to turn this into action? One, I really encourage you to audit your own lead response workflow. Go through the steps, ask the questions. If I put you on the spot right now and I say, I'm putting a lead into your website, I'm asking somebody to contact me, I have a question, and I ask you what happens to it. Tell me step by step. Can you do that? A lot of times when we're in leadership positions, we can't. We're relying on somebody to do it. We're assuming it's getting done. We're assuming that it's happening in the best way that we possibly can. But this is where things can kind of get a little cloudy and messy. So go back, audit that process. Do we have places where we find things falling through the cracks? I heard Megan say to a team today, if I could wave a magic wand right now and fix the cracks in your system, what are the cracks? Where is it? What would those things be that you would just, oh, if we could fix that, that would be huge. So think about that process, audit it, talk to your team. This isn't something you do alone. Megan just talked about Charlene is a huge part of how we figure this out. She's the person doing it. She's the one hearing the no's. She's facing the challenges. She identifies herself where the cracks are. Hey, it'd be really great if our CRM reminded me to do this. Okay, let's build it so it does that, because she recognizes where she falls short as a human and where we can use technology to help her. Number two, start setting some expectations for what that response time and follow-up looks like. If you don't have it outlined, sit down and put it on a piece of paper. I don't care if you're writing it on the back of a napkin, get it written down somewhere and start sharing that information with your team. Then train your staff. Train them on what they should be doing. Train them on what they should be saying. Train them on how to handle objections in the way that you want them to be handled, in your brand, in your voice. Make sure that you're implementing or optimizing some sort of CRM tracking. And again, if that starts with a spreadsheet, that is perfectly acceptable. especially if you're just working out your process. If this is all brand new and you're like, this is what we've been missing, we don't have any of this outlined, that's okay. Get started on a spreadsheet. That's something you can start tomorrow, free of charge to start working on that. But definitely start implementing and then optimizing the tools that you're using. And then review and re-engage what you might consider cold leads or dead leads or bad leads at least once a quarter. Have a cadence where you're going back into that database and you're resurrecting it. Megan, would you mind sharing kind of what our process is when we hit that final touch point, those 12 touch points in about a week and a half, and we kind of drop off? What does that look like for Charlene to take that cold lead? When does she do that?
Yeah, we put them in a 30-day holding pattern, and every 30 days they get dropped back into her pipeline as if they just filled out a new form on our website. Because our philosophy is that until they tell us, no, thank you, please remove me from your communication, or they take a meeting with us, that there's still that not right now, and we don't know when that right now will be. So we put them in what we call the washing machine, and every 30 days they reappear into our system as if they just contacted us for the first time. People
Absolutely.
are vocal. They will tell you when they're ready to be released. And most of the time, we're getting messages that say, thank you so much for the persistence. My life is so busy. I still need to schedule this appointment. How does next week sound?
Absolutely. And you guys know right now, especially in medical and aesthetic space, summertime is slow. So we're likely getting people that are searching for stuff and maybe reaching out. They're sending a contact form or a request form for information, but maybe they're not ready to schedule yet. It's summertime, they're traveling, and they forget about it, and the kids go back to school, and everything's crazy. Put them in that washing machine. Go back in the fall and revisit. Hey Megan, I know life gets really crazy and you reached back in the summertime, you reached out to us, and oh my gosh, summer's just the craziest time. So I just wanted to connect with you, let you know we're still here. If you're interested in getting that consultation scheduled for Botox and filler, we're happy to do that when you're ready. Make that touch point, get back in touch with them. Again, doesn't mean they're a bad lead. No right now doesn't mean no forever. I do have some examples, and Megan, I definitely want you, if you don't mind, you know this example. I'd love for you to kind of share this. This is really where I want you all to see how you can put that CRM to work for you, understanding if your process is working. Are the things that you expect happening? When you look at things on the surface, looks like she called this girl back, then sent an email, then sent a text. But Megan, this is an account that she works with. And we were kind of digging in. And I think, in fact, the owner said to you, Megan, like, great, she gets points. She did all the touch points. And Megan said, okay, well, hold on. Let's inspect this a little bit. Let's look at our process and see why this patient didn't end up scheduling. So, Megan, I'd love for you to kind of walk through this because this is such a great example.
Yeah, always the bearer of bad
I
news.
know.
I think that this is also one of those things. It's like the devil usually lies in the details. And so if your CRM isn't giving you the transparency to get into the details, as you kind of start to the left of your screen here, what you'll see is that a new lead came into the system on June 8th at 7:45 p.m. To Lindsay's point earlier, we don't expect people to be answering leads around the clock. But our expectation is that they open at 8 o'clock the next morning. All leads from the night before are followed up by 8:30 that morning. So while we did get the phone call out, you can see that that phone call didn't happen until 10:35. So that's our first topic of conversation. Hey, front desk, what got in your way this morning that prevented you from being able to get back to that lead before 8:30 this morning? And in this particular case, it was, well, I was trying to really quickly flip the towels from the washing machine to the dryer so that we could get set up for the day. And in that case, like we have to look in the mirror and we have to say, as a management team, we need to set a triage list. What is the order of operations when we get in the morning? Each one of these leads sitting there is worth $800. Getting them on the phone first thing in the morning and getting them booked on a consult makes them worth $1,250. Once they're on the phone and I get them booked for that consultation, they're worth $2,500. So helping them prioritize and giving permission to say, the thing that people are going to see are the wet towels sitting in the washing machine. The thing that we understand as a management team is that you made the absolute right call to progress someone one step to the right. So then you see her text message, she sends her email. The next thing that you see in here is that she responds at 4:30 that afternoon. Hey, I'm considering getting 0.5 milliliters of lip filler, but was wondering about how long it usually lasts as well as price. Okay, thing number one here is it's 4:30. They don't close till 5:30. The response didn't go out until 9:15 the next morning. How did we check out for the day without responding to a good engaged lead that's asking for an appointment, pricing, and how long this is going to last? We left that opportunity on the table, right? And then I'll let everyone read for themselves. I'll paraphrase here, but her response to the question will probably make everyone on this call cringe. Hey, we don't typically do 0.5 milliliters of lip filler. You have to buy an entire syringe. What you don't use, you will lose. And we're going to charge you $600 to $800 for you to only utilize half. Again, I'm paraphrasing, but this is what the user hears. If we kept this screenshot going, she does put them through 12 more touch points, but they got ghosted the instant that they got this response. So it doesn't matter many times we try to have the provider call. It doesn't matter how many times we try to have the ownership team call. And this is not to place any blame on the front.
No.
What it allowed us to do is have a conversation to say, one, how do we reprioritize your day? And two, we have a new protocol in place that anytime someone requests pricing, phone call immediately. See if you can catch them. If you can't, we have a templated response. We call these pivot points. If there's certain things that we know we're going to come across that we need to pivot, we come up with a scripted answer. We assign it to someone who's more capable of answering the question, and we make sure that that's well documented for the practice. So from now on, anytime we recognize the word price, it's a phone call for a consultation. I can't see you through the phone. A lot of practices out there like to reduce the cost per unit and over inject on the number of units. We don't do that here. We take your consultation really seriously. Why don't we get you scheduled? I'll have one of our providers reach out and we can talk through the answer to your question. We can manipulate that conversation in a really healthy way to help push revenue through the business. And so, for me, it's the transparency and then the discipline for us as a leadership team to say, as painful as it is, every Wednesday night, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to go through 10 random accounts and I'm going to listen to the phone calls. I'm going to read the text messages. I'm going to compare that to our protocols. And every Friday before we check out as a team, we're going to go through the good, the bad, and the ugly and have a conversation about it.
Thank you for going through that because this is an example I think for me that really, as you said, the devil's in the details. At a glance, we're seeing she called, she emailed, she texted. Great. But when we really start examining the process, because this person didn't schedule, what happened? We can then start seeing. And as Megan said, it is not about assigning blame at all. It is definitely not. It's about making sure that processes are in place and that we are optimizing them. Just because we wrote it down doesn't mean that's going to be the process forever. We are going to catch things and say, oh, you know what? Maybe we were giving too much leeway time in the morning to get things like laundry done and then get to the leads. We're going to change that up and we're going to say, as Megan said, leads come first. We're going to make sure we get to those. We're going to make sure that we have those scripts for those pivot points. When something comes up, we don't want to scare someone off with the response that we're giving them. We want to use that as an opportunity to get them in front of a provider for a consultation. So all of this is to say, again, use the technology, use your process to fall back on and say, are we doing a good job? Are we following this? So some key takeaways, hopefully, that you picked up from this evening are leads are not always bad, but often our processes are. Timely, structured follow-up is going to equal higher conversions in your practice. CRM tools are going to enable some efficiency, visibility, and accountability into what's happening through this workflow in your practice. And a no doesn't mean never. So chase it with intention. Understand how you're going to go back and re-engage them in a very intentional way so that you can work on turning that no into a yes. So some final thoughts here to wrap those things up is let's stop automatically blaming leads. Sometimes we know that they're not perfect and there's optimization there. That's a whole separate phone call or webinar on how we can optimize our marketing efforts. But tonight is really about starting to fix those processes. If we have leads coming in, let's work on how we optimize it to improve how many consultations we're getting. And remember that small changes often equal very major results. So growth doesn't come from more leads, it comes from doing more with the leads that you already have. And I want you to remember that. You have, all of you, I am sure, have a database full of contact information. It costs you nothing to go back into your practice tomorrow and sit down with your team and look at that database and say, we're going to each make 20 calls and we're going to work on re-engaging these people and getting them back in with us. So your homework, because again, if you've ever worked with me, you know I always have homework. No one gets away for free here. Take a screenshot, think about these things, but I want you to go back into your practice and I want you to work with your team and I want you to ask yourself, what is your current callback process? Where are your processes breaking down? How are you tracking leads and follow-up? Maybe the answer is you're not. So this is your opportunity. What is your average lead to booking time? Again, use your tools to help you figure these things out. What is your conversion rate in your throughput model? How many of those users are becoming leads, are becoming phone calls, becoming consultations, becoming patients with you? And determine along that pathway, where is your practice having their rate limiter right now? And I will tell you, as soon as you fix your rate limiter in one place, it has moved to another place. And that's okay. But we constantly need to be evaluating this so we can adjust and make sure that we're tackling the rate limiter to keep our practices growing and moving forward. So thank you for listening to us talk this evening. Megan and I get to talk about this stuff a lot, and it was really a pleasure to have Donna and Lori invite me back to come and talk about this. So my contact information is there. There's a QR code where you can scan it if you want to get connected. If you've got any questions about what we talked about this evening, about your CRM, about how you're putting your processes together, Megan and I are always happy to take some phone calls and walk through and talk with you about what's going on in your practice and possibly where you can optimize those things to help you improve how many conversions you're getting. So, all right.